Evening everyone. I'm Simon Barber and I run the technical department at a company called Internet Investigation Solutions. We work very closely with law enforcement and government agencies to provide an open source platform for investigations online. Open source is an area that we see becoming quite mainstream, quite popular, and a lot of crimes are now happening. So we were set up to deliver the products to law enforcement, government agencies, allowing them to research crimes. We provide a platform which allows the officer investigating to log on and to use standard internet-based tools to research crime, to investigate crime, to research information to take to court. We have to keep an eye on security, obviously in terms of offensive and defensive. We are going to some pretty dark places on the internet. We are going to places that people are setting up traps. So in that aspect, we tend to look at both the offensive and defensive side of security. We also have to keep evidential integrity because a lot of this information will go to court and be tried as part of a crime. We handle quite a lot of traffic on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. We have a lot of internet access, a lot of application access services. So we see a lot of threats, a lot of zero-day exploits, a lot of activity that a lot of people don't see until months down the line on the internet. As a part of this, we then see a lot of attacks on our own network. We see cyber attacks on a daily basis, being from farming, from spear phishing, malvertising, malicious code, JavaScript, and so on. We provide access to the clear web, to dark web and deep webs, so that puts us in a good position to see new trends. One of the things that we like to define is the difference between cybercrime and cyber-enabled crime. Cybercrime is obviously anything that uses computers or technology as a method of attack or the attack on the victim, whereas cyber-enabled crime could be any traditional crime that has a cyber element to it. So a robbery that you use a phone to find where to take something from, for example. Large-scale hacking, buying a weapon to use to assault someone. All of these would be classed as cyber-enabled crime. The most common ones we see quite often are theft and fraud, which are quite easy to do, low-tech, and don't take that much involvement. There aren't many crimes out there these days now that don't have an element of cyber to them, however that may be. There's always some sort of cyber trace back. You might use an Uber to book a taxi to go somewhere. You might do some research on someone online before you commit your crime. So we're in the arena of OSINT, which is open source investigation and intelligence. So this could be any information you can gather online, be it from websites, people's Facebook accounts, social media accounts, mobile device applications they use, things they put on LinkedIn and so on. Most of this is gathered from the clear web, which is only a very, very small part of the internet. The parts that are indexed by Google and other search engines, which everyone goes on, everyone uses on a daily basis. There's a lot of information on dark webs, Tor, I2P, Freenet, that a lot of people don't get to research, don't get to look at. And obviously there's a deep web, which is areas that maybe a Dropbox that haven't been secured, banking areas, the back end of Gmail and so on. That makes up for just over 90% of the internet, so a lot of it is untouched. Other dark webs are coming up that we sort of deal with, such as Freenet, which is it's quite controversial in the fact that everyone stores a part of the Freenet network on their machine, so you don't know what you're hosting, but there's a copy of it on your machine, so it's an area that people don't really want to go near. So with Taz talking about businesses, we thought we'd come and talk about how cybercrime impacts the individual, the user. We can't talk too much about our product and the way we work, but we can show you from a criminal side how they would operate, what they would do, and what they would do after they've taken money off you or committed the crime. So the reason cybercrime is obviously quite popular is there's abundance of information online about everyone that is very, very easy to get hold of. Anyone can go and get the information they need with just a 4G connection or a Wi-Fi connection and a laptop. People are very overly generous on social media, sharing information about themselves. So you might put on that you're going on holiday. You might put on your kids on the first day of school. There's a picture of the school. Here's their names, where you're going. You're putting a photo on. It's got EXIF data on so people know exactly where you are. You're away from home. People tend to put pictures of new purchases on, so you know what they've got in their house, in effect. You know what they do for hobbies, interests. And people do not strip EXIF data and metadata from files they upload. So again, you can build a very good picture of someone online in relatively no time at all on their social media accounts. As well as that, we see that the recent sort of database leaks that have happened pretty much every week at the moment gives a lot of information away. It gives usernames, passwords, email addresses, date of birth. A lot of people reuse passwords as well, so if you had a database compromised, use the same password somewhere else, maybe your email, then there's more information about yourself that will be leaked out. We tend to find criminals will use your social media, sort of an application use to map sleeping patterns and your work-home life balance and build up a picture of your daily routines. Things like when you post online, when you show you're online on a service, all of these bits will give away, again, information about who you are as a person and your vulnerabilities and weaknesses. So there are some higher level crimes and targets that we tend to work with and deal with, and OSINT's very much used for, but with this talk we thought we would keep it a bit lighter and look at some of the crimes that aren't the sort of thing that, theft, for example, fraud. We'll look at those sort of areas. So the most common one everyone knows, everyone's seen these, and that's our shadow Home Secretary nearly falling for one right there. Social engineering, fraud, Twitter is rife with these sort of things. A verified account, a fake verified account, verified information. This is probably one of the most common ways people end up falling victim to cybercrime. Social media, a link that they trust, someone they think they know, and they'll fall for it. This was actually one of the current tech support scams that go around at the moment, where they phone you and say, you've got a problem with your machine. They will connect to your machine, install some malware, and start siphoning off information, or roll ransomware out and charge you money to correct it. So if the shadow Home Secretary almost falls for such a scam, then what hope has everyone else got? They get a lot of training in operation security, that they're taught what to look for and always be suspicious. So to the everyday person on the street, it's very easy to fall for. What we tend to find now is that the traditional online fraud was very much send 1 million emails out and hope that someone responds. Now it's very much targeted. With open source intelligence, people are able to find information out about you and target the attacks directly to you. So they know your interests, they know your hobbies, they know your friends' names, they know how to appear to you, and they know how to make you think that it's something good that you're getting into. And this does get much better results for them. Another sort of area that is on the rise, and we've seen a lot of this, is sextortion, which is a blackmail based usually at lonely people or people on dating websites that might want to get into a relationship. They get open up, they get talking, that they think that obviously they found a partner. They're conned into either doing things, sending pictures or doing things on a webcam, and then the next thing they know, they've got an email or a letter saying, send us money or we're releasing this to the internet. It's rife on the dating websites. It's picking people out when they're vulnerable and knowing their weaknesses, that they are looking for love and targeting it. These are getting quite advanced now in that they're not usually based on UK shores, they're usually overseas, so quite tricky to track. And they're using artificial intelligence to make the bot or distort their voice to fit in with a local region. So maybe if you're in Wales, for example, they would have a Welsh voice, but it might be a Russian lady or it might be someone abroad. So very, very difficult to detect and not fall for, especially if you're looking for these things online. A variant of this has just come out that we've started seeing a lot of as well, which is based on another password leak database. You get an email and they say, we know your password. It's a password that's been used, knowing that people reuse their passwords a lot. And they will say, we know your search history, we know the sort of stuff you look for, we're going to release it unless you send us money, cryptocurrency over. And obviously there's a big element of OSINT in this, in that a lot of research goes into find the right victim. There's a lot of work goes into what they do to make these videos, to bring someone in. There's probably weeks and weeks or months of talking to them, a lot of time invested. So they always use open source intelligence to make sure that the victim they're going for has got a likely chance of falling for it. So a bit of a bugbear of mine is the information that smart devices and Internet of Things give out. Cyber criminals love this. There's so much information to gather from your watch, from your phone, from your devices in your house. All of these, they're great for saving time, they're great for giving you information that you might not have had previously, or save you 2 clicks on a computer, but they contain so much information that it's a goldmine for anyone who wants to get to know more about your details. So the big one that we see again is smart health devices. It's your watches, it's your Fitbits, it's your running apps. The amount of information that these have, and they show you routes that you run, they show you when you go running, what you do, who you go running with, who you associate with therefore, and they also allow you to map the location that you're in. So you might think you're going for a run and you've mapped it, you've told everyone you've run it in a certain time. It's leaking information about the routes you've run, it's leaking information about maybe roads that aren't actually on a map, or the location of the inside of your building if you're walking around. There are some very high profile cases of this. US Army, UK government agencies that have all been going for a run on their lunch around the outside of the buildings, and then before you know it, there's a nice little map of the location and what they've got going on. So this here is a US Army base on the grid on the left, and then the lighter colour is actually the running route that the US soldiers were running every day when they're going for a run. This was actually based in the Helmand province and was an area that wasn't actually mapped and charted, so it was an area that it was a secret US base, and then these army guys went for a run and they've mapped out the whole location for someone, so it can be used in an attack, can be used to identify the size of the place, how many resources they've got there, and all of that was from a watch, one single watch, and there's all that information. Another area people tend to fall victim to cybercrime from is spear phishing. So this is targeted again, not just phishing emails, it's directed spear phishing. It's go find out about you on LinkedIn, go and find your information on Facebook, go and find what you're interested in, and target the email specifically to you. So it feels like something you should know and have and see. We see a lot of these on the big sort of sites, Apple, Gmail, Amazon, Office 365. The amount of emails that go around spoofed from someone you know, from your company, that have the right logo, the right footer, the right header on, to get information and passwords out. And obviously, as soon as you've got access to Office 365, you've got access to emails, to accounts departments, to do what you like from there. So yeah, as soon as you've got access to emails, then you've got pretty much anything. You can reset passwords, you can log into other accounts. Not so much everyday general public, but we do see quite a lot of people fall victim to cons on the dark web. We also see this is where quite a lot of the proceeds of crime will end up. So if people are going to take your money from you for a ransom, they're going to ask for it in cryptocurrency. They're not going to ask for it in cash or a check or wire transfer. It's always going to be cryptocurrency these days. A lot of the dark markets and dark web markets do sell credit card information that they've probably got from database hacks. It's nice and anonymous for them, so they believe it's a nice secret way. Log on, here's credit card details, and they've sold it without having to get face-to-face with anyone. Luckily, it's far from risk-free for them. We closely monitor the dark webs as part of our service, and we noticed that after Freedom Hosting, which was one of the biggest hosting providers on the dark web, that got shut down in 2016 for hosting some questionable material. In the few days after that, we found over 1,000 sites started up again, moving to different hosting providers, and over half of them were clones of each other. So one of them could only be the genuine site, the rest were people copying, ripping off, setting up honeypots to capture each other, or law enforcement setting them up. So quite a lot of the darknet is clones of other sites. You can't trust most of the sites on there. It's also all clear text as well, so nothing's secure on there. The whole of the darknet heavily linked into cryptocurrencies, which is another area we see trending with cybercriminal, cybercrime, not just in payment terms, but in the actual cyber cryptocurrency markets in terms of buying, selling, scams, setups, and transferring money. So this is one of the dark web marketplaces, one of the main ones that is currently active that probably won't last forever, they never do. You can see the very basic sites. The darknet is based on no trust, it's based on no fancy websites, no scripts. It's all very simple, HTTP sites, all hidden, and you have to know the URL to get there. So this is a site that's quite popular. You register for a login, you can go on and you can buy cloned credit cards. Feedback system on these things, they're like Amazon. So if you bought a credit card from here and it didn't work, you would leave feedback, and before you know it, that seller would be redundant. No one would use him. So they're quite sophisticated in the way that they work. And here's another. This is one of the biggest prepaid cards. So these are calling it a victimless crime in that it's not taking money out of someone's bank, it's taking it from the banks, but they have full advertising campaigns, they have feedback forms, they have reviews, they run like a standard business. So if your credit card details, if you fall victim to cybercrime, chances are your credit card details or your details are going to end up somewhere on the dark net. It might not be credit card, it might be your ID, it might be your passport, it might be something along those lines. But a lot of the data that's took now ends up on the dark net. So as I've touched on, cryptocurrencies are an area that your average cyber criminal will have invested in. The idea of cryptocurrency, I'm sure a lot of people in here know, is that it's a distributed ledger of transactions. So there's not a centralized bank anymore. Anyone can run a node and everyone controls cryptocurrencies. So the idea being it's fully transparent. It is fully transparent, but there's also products out there, cryptocurrency products out there that like to be anonymous and like to hide the ledger. So you can't trace money front to back. It's very difficult. At the moment, Monero is the one that dark web, people on the dark web who know what they're doing will use Monero. It adds a layer of encryption, it adds a layer of anonymity, but everyone asks you to pay in Bitcoin for the obvious reason. It's the easiest one to buy. If you want to buy other cryptocurrencies, it's a long-winded process. It's very difficult, and it will take you a long time. So usually they'll say send Bitcoin, and then they'll transfer it into another currency. The cryptocurrency market is still in its infancy. So you can identify people through it. It's supposed to be a ledger that anyone can audit and trace, so in theory you should be able to follow the money anywhere. But what you'll find is a lot of the exchanges that they're signing up to transfer money through don't do the know your customer processes that banks do. So they're not getting people to register properly, they're just putting a name and an email address in. So until that market's established, it's an easier way to move money around without it being traced as quick. They call it decentralized as well, but most of the nodes for cryptocurrency are based in one of two countries, or in China and Russia. So it's not that decentralized. This was an investigation that Dark Reading performed. This is actually the WannaCry that took out the NHS fairly recently. Following the Bitcoin wallet that was part of the ransom, they managed to follow that down to an actual Tor node and a device on the dark web that was controlling the whole operation. They reused the wallet, the Bitcoin wallet, multiple times as well, so they were able to relate it to multiple different processes and investigations. It's sloppy. It's sloppy on the criminals' behalf, but it's easy for them. So chances are most people will reuse a wallet, and you'll find it. We find tracing things via wallets and Google Analytics codes are very accurate. It's quite a good way of tracking people and tracing them down. So they're methods that we have built into LongArm to make sure that can take place. Taz has touched on the business side, but I thought we'll just add a few bits in that we tend to see. Most incidents we see around businesses have came from people sharing too much information, generally on LinkedIn or other platforms. It might be physical open source, it might be someone's walking along with a tag on so you know that they use RSA for their security, for example, or it might be that they have their password written on a sticky note, or they might end up saying on LinkedIn that they use a certain firewall provider, they might use certain systems, they'll give out the whole business layout, they'll tell you who the financial director is, the managing director is, and from there you know who to target, whose email mailbox to take over, and then who you email to get funds released. So LinkedIn's a very good open source method of plotting a whole business top to bottom and working out who you should target. A couple of examples we've seen is people taking to public areas to talk about business. So there was a couple of guys who went to the same coffee shop every week to have a team meeting, and they went there to talk about a new product that they were building, new part of the product they were building, and they sat there with their IDs on, talked openly in this coffee shop about what they were going to do. Didn't think anything of it, left later that day. The next day, the lead technician got an email, supposedly from the other guy, from a new Gmail account that had been set up, saying, I'm not in work today, but about the thing we talked about, and included information that they would only know because it's part of the conversation. The only reason that scam didn't work is that the tone of the email wasn't right. This guy, usually quite abrupt of his emails, he wouldn't put regards, thank you, hi, such and such. It was very much to the point. So if he'd got the sentiment right in this email, then that scam would have worked, and he would have obviously got some very important IP to the company. We also see a lot of Office 365 incidents. People give out their Office 365 password, lose it, log in somewhere shared, and before you know it, that's spreading around the company. People are putting forwarders on to make sure that emails are going externally, and it's very, very difficult to trace and track. Office 365 were very lax with their logging until recently. So on the good side, anything you can do with OSINT for the bad guys, then law enforcement can look to try using the same sort of methods and technology to fight it. So the techniques that you use online would be very, very much like you would use in the physical world. If you go to a crime scene, then someone's going to have left a fingerprint, footprint, someone's going to have left agent strings, firewall logs, someone's going to have visited a site, someone's going to have left the failed login attempts and passwords. So in the same way you'd go to a physical crime scene and start looking for evidence, open source allows you to do exactly the same on a digital background. So one of the key areas we look at and we constantly evolve and develop is looking into researching your digital fingerprints. This is something that's made up of hundreds of items on your machine. It might be fonts that are installed, it might be agent strings, it might be browser errors. There are hundreds of these that make up your unique ID. And until you get the ability to hide all of those, mask all of those, then it's very, very difficult to hide online, be it clear web, dark web, deep web, anywhere. So that's something that we constantly look at, we work with, and it's an area that's constantly changing. With what we see, the amount of traffic we see, incidents we see, we have a fairly good idea of where we think things will go. We see cybercrime changing all the time, techniques shift, they change as they get stale and people get used to them, but then you'll find a year or two later they'll come back into play. So the old email with a password in now has come back into play. It was prevalent a few years ago. I've got a history of your internet access here. It's been tweaked slightly and then it's come back into fashion. So you tend to find that they come, they go, they'll come back again. What we also find is that the word is slowly spreading to users, end users, that cybersecurity is important. Everyone knows someone who's had some sort of breach or incident or card cloned or issue with a computer. So the work to perform a cybercrime actually increases, so you tend to find it's more organised now as opposed to someone chancing their arm. But because of that, the rewards that they'll gather from maybe doing it on a larger scale are much greater than you'd see. So the first prediction I'm going to make is that a lot of social medias will purge a lot of accounts. We're already seeing it with Facebook, Twitter and so on. They know that their social media networks are completely swamped with fake accounts, with trolls, with so on, bad actors. They're already starting to blacklist certain email providers, blacklist certain places you connect from, certain networks. I don't think it's a massively bold prediction, but I think that we will see that a lot of Facebook, Twitter and so on profiles will be shut down in the coming years. I also think that Facebook will lose a fair share of their market share. People are starting to move away, that they're not that trustful of having that much information in one place. We also see a lot of cryptocurrency-related crime happening from ICO scams, which are brand new startups. You buy into an ICO, you think that a currency is going to make it. Hacks on exchanges, because they're not a bank, they haven't got the technology that banks have got, they haven't got the controls banks have got. It's an easy way to take money. We're also seeing large crypto influencers targeted in terms of SIM swaps. So it's a form of social engineering. You would contact the service provider, contact O2, contact the EE and say, I need a new SIM. They would send it out to you without any questions most of the time. It's very much a case of verifying information you can find online. You've got their SIM, you ask for a password reset, the token code sent to your SIM. It's an area that needs strengthening massively. We also see cryptojacking, again, cryptocurrency. Cryptojacking is a JavaScript-based exploit that will use resource on your machine. So you might go to a website and you think, my machine suddenly started going a bit slow. It's actually, the machine in the background is using your processing power to harvest and mine cryptocurrency. There are about 4 million websites at the moment that are currently running cryptojacking software, many of them feeding back into the same 7 or 8 providers. We see a lot of bad apps going on the Google Play Store as well. Part of our product is to provide mobile access, so we look at a lot of mobile applications. The amount of information that isn't needed that comes out of mobile apps is far too much. You might find you install an app to write notes and it'll say it wants contact to your address book, your phone history, information it doesn't need, it just should write apps. So there's a lot of applications that go on the Google Play Store that shouldn't be there and do get removed. As happened yesterday and a couple of months ago with Amazon, BGP is a massive vulnerability on the internet. The recent attack yesterday on Google, 2.5 hours they were down for. The traffic was being formatted, sent to China and Russia and Nigeria. Anyone can advertise they own any IP addresses. It's a big vulnerability, and if you set up the right systems and the encryption wasn't right, then potentially you could have the end user's data. Internet of Things, again, there's currently over 180,000 routers from one brand, Microtech, that are running compromised code. At the moment, it's just doing cryptojacking, but it could do far more now that they've got an actual connection to the network. And the last one is database leaks. They happen all the time, they happen more and more often, and until we do away with passwords or until two-factor is default on absolutely everything, I don't think they'll go away. So that's pretty much where we see things going. It's pretty much how we see cyber criminals operating, what they're doing in the background. Any questions?
You mentioned how you think that social media platforms such as Facebook, you've seen them a lot crack down more on criminal-related accounts.
Yep.
Do you see them working closer with law enforcement as well in the future? Because I know that there's been like multiple problems in the past where needing access to a Facebook account of a victim or something like that. Do you see those lines moving as well?
I would like to think so, but I'm not sure. I think it goes against what they want to offer. I think they want to offer a safe haven within reasons, but it would be nice if they did, if they cooperated with law, it would make everyone's job easier. But I can't see it being something that they could do. No more now? Okay. Well, I'll be around anyway. If anyone wants to ask any more questions, then feel free to come and see me.